This is the ultimate camera test of Samsung Galaxy A55 versus Samsung Galaxy S24. Samsung's flagship versus mid-range. Let the battle begin. Today we are comparing the latest mid-range versus the latest flagship of Samsung, Galaxy A55 versus Galaxy S24. We are expecting a really good fight between the two phones. Even though Galaxy A55 is almost half of what S24 price is, the Galaxy A series are evolving, becoming really good camera phones too. Today is a sunny day in Canada and we'll be able to shoot both indoors and outdoors. You will see blue sky, the trees, and all the colors. Indoors, we'll shoot flowers and everything colorful like books and random colorful things. We will also utilize all three sensors of Galaxy S24s and of course, the Galaxy A55. Let's start with color, profile, and saturation, and beginning with the new Galaxy mid-range. I noticed that the colors are more saturated. The colors pink, brown, and red, they are more vivid than Galaxy S24. But odd enough, the color blue, which is the color of the sky, it's the same vividness compared to the flagship, so you would see that the sky on both phones matches really well. A55 has a cooler white balance, and I think that sometimes the image coming from the A series is a little bit dull compared to S24, and it also crushes the shadows a little bit, making the scene a little bit darker than S24. I'm also impressed by the 2x crop on A55 because you will see a lot of details. Even cropping in on the image, the fabrics and the flowers, you will see those surface details on the subject. Also, one good thing about Galaxy A55 is it shows and represents all different colors on the highlights because S24 tends to blend the colors on a bright source of light. While Galaxy S24, the new flagship of Samsung, is natural looking, but funny enough, if you go outdoors and shoot some trees or plants, you will see that the colors are more vivid on this phone. So in a way, Samsung is tweaking the color profile of these two phones depending on the scene. It is also warmer, definitely warmer than A55. On all my shots, both indoors and outdoors, S24 is probably 95% warmer than A55. It also has better exposure. You would see a lot of information on the shadows. Definitely the new flagship S24 is better exposed than the mid-range A series. And instead of the macro sensor, Samsung provided a usable 3x optical zoom on S24. The only thing I don't like about S24 is it blends the colors of the highlights. So if there's two colors like purple or white, S24 will just provide you with the purplish highlights on the image. Going through quickly with the specification, both phones has triple camera setup. Galaxy A55 consists of ultra-wide main and macro sensor, while Galaxy S24 contains ultra-wide, wide, and 3x optical zoom. The difference are needing a macro sensor and cheaper versus 3x optical zoom and obviously more expensive and faster than the mid-range A series. Also, the sensors on S24 are capable of 8K video recording as opposed to 4K of Galaxy A55. Going back to the comparison test, I think both phones are doing really well. Although there's a lot of differences, both phones will produce really good images. And looking at all sensors from the ultra-wide, main, and crop or the farthest zoom, Galaxy S24 will provide you better reach than Galaxy A55. This is the new Samsung Galaxy A55 in 4K 30 FPS. What I like about this phone is even though it doesn't have 8K video recording, but on the standards in 2024, 4K video recording is still pretty good. This is Samsung Galaxy S24 in 8K 30 FPS. You have to pay a little bit more for the 8K video recording, but you get what you paid for. Let's talk about portrait mode, and these two phones are really good in terms of portrait shots, and again, I think Samsung perfected the portrait mode on smartphones, and these two phones are two of the best smartphones on their category. The flaring might get in the way of the mid-range A55 when you have the source of light at the back, but all good. The mid-range Galaxy A55 has a creamier background blur. You will see that the blur on the background is stronger than S24, and on my recent community post, people were actually asking if I switched the images because let's be honest, the background blur on A55 I feel is better than S24. It's like pixel quality portrait. It has a cooler white balance than S24 and it may be boring at times, but overall the portrait mode on A55 is as good as the new flagship Samsung. While the new Samsung flagship S24 has better edge detection than A55, but honestly not all images has failed edge detection because these two phones are impeccable on subject separation. S24 also has a gradual blur that makes the shot look like coming from a proper camera, obviously with the less faster lens than A55. It has a warmer white balance that is more inviting than A55. And what I love about the new Samsung flagship S24 is the trifocal length from 1x, 2x to 3x, which is 24mm, 50mm, and 85mm shot. And going for the selfie camera, it's almost the same. Just a little bit more detailed on my face on Galaxy S24, but the images looks identical. Now on night mode is where the differences take place. I still feel that Samsung will not give Galaxy A55 everything on its arsenal, and they created a distinction on this mid-range phone. You would notice that it crushes the shadows compared to S24, and sometimes it's a hit or miss on the clarity of the image. While the new Samsung Galaxy S24 has better exposure, you will see that the images are brighter than the mid-range phone, and more importantly, it is way sharper than A55. It also has a brighter colors on some of the shots, and on pitch black condition, you will have a neutral tint on S24. The mid-range Galaxy A55 tends to be purplish, and looking at all sensors from the ultra-wide, wide, and the zoom, night shot features are consistent. Both phones has dual video recording, so you can take the rear camera and the selfie camera at the same time. This is Samsung Galaxy A55 and this is Samsung Galaxy S24. I think the quality of the video for the dual recording on both phones are almost the same. Let's talk about flaring, and both Samsung phones are managing the flaring really well. I think on some shots S24 is performing better than A55, especially if the light source is at the back. Checking the highlights, it's almost the same. I think the mid-range A55 just clips the highlights a little bit, and on the same image, if we check the exposure, you will see that the Flagship S24 exposes the scene better. Now, one of the advantages of the mid-range A55 is the macro mode, so if you like to shoot some close-up shots, then you may be able to save hundreds of dollars on the new mid-range. If we talk about sharpness, I think on the ultra-wide lens, S24 is a bit sharper than A55. They almost have the same sharpness on the main sensor, and obviously because S24 has optical zoom, it is better than the 2x digital crop of A55. Also looking at the reach, S24 can reach up to 30 times. And lastly, details. So there are two takeaways on this image. First, A55 is more natural looking than S24, but the new flagship looks nicer and there's a little bit more information on Galaxy S24. So this is the image test of Samsung Galaxy A55 versus Samsung Galaxy S24. So there are three major differences between these two phones. First is the portrait mode, better background blur on A55, but better night shot on Samsung Galaxy S24, and macro mode versus telephoto zoom. Now let's do the video test from the stabilization, slow motion, and low light. Starting with the video zoom test, you will notice that Galaxy A55 is noisier than the flagship S24. We are testing the stabilization, and we're starting with the ultra-wide lens in 4K 30 FPS. Obviously, the color of the sky is different, and there's more details on the S24. The stabilization is pretty good on both phones. Going to the main sensor, still in 4K 30 FPS, it's a different story. I feel like the new mid-range is a little bit bouncier than S24, although in terms of looks, it's almost the same. The sky and the grass, just a little bit warmer on the new flagship Samsung. This is the digital crop versus the optical zoom of S24, and although we have a dedicated zoom on S24, the stabilization is as good on walking situation. This is the selfie video recording in 4K 30 FPS. I think the main difference is the face. It is smoother on A55, and there's a little bit more information on S24, but it's almost the same look and white balance. And welcome to the biggest change on Galaxy phones, the slow motion. S24 can shoot 4K at 120 FPS as opposed to the full HD of A55. And lastly, low light video. There's just a little bit of difference on the white balance, warmer on A55, and you have this jello effect while panning. I hope this will be fixed on the next update. I think overall, in terms of camera performance and video resolution, Galaxy S24 is the winner here. But if you're looking for a budget-friendly phone, I think with everything it offers from the 4K video recording, good portrait shot, and decent night shots, Galaxy A55 is a great alternative. And there you go. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll continue to compare these two phones in our channel, so stay tuned. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.